We're a little over the halfway point in the series, and as I look back at some of the games we played, I really think we're out of it. The garbage is gone, we've had a lot of lows, but I think the only place we can go from here is up. Wait, that's the same thing I said after middle school! Hello everyone, Hunter here from Gaming by Gamers, and welcome back to Web Series Episode 9. On today's episode, we're going to be reviewing two more Spider-Man games, the first being Ultimate Spider-Man on the PlayStation 2, and the second being Spider-Man Battle for New York on the Nintendo DS. For context, the Ultimate Spider-Man comic series is my favorite of all time. I love it, it's what really got me into Spider-Man. Now let's see if this game can live up to that Ultimate series. But before we get into gameplay, I just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Vilros. Vilros makes really cool retro gaming controllers, and if you stick around towards the end of the video, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about them. Thank you again, Vilros, for the sponsorship. Now let's get on to the review. If you played or watched my Spider-Man 2 video and played this right after, it's gonna be a little shocking. NANI?! But it's important to remember that this is just a very different art style, and once I got used to it, I really liked it. It fits the tone of the game very well. It feels like an Ultimate comic came to life. Even the cutscenes are like moving comic panels, and I'm really a sucker for that. It's not very realistic looking, but because of that, I actually think it holds up better. This is going to look a lot worse in the long run than this. And that's true for most cel-shaded games. They also can do really cool things like have onomatopoeias pop up like it's a comic book. If I had to rate this game on charm alone, it would be a 10 out of 10. When I think comic book games, this is the best looking example. It really feels like a lot of love went into this game, and I really believe its presentation is its best part. That really is shocking though, because this game came out only a year after Spider-Man 2. Normally that would mean a terrible game, but this game is actually really good. First and foremost, let's talk about the web swinging. This game has a bit of a different approach to it. Swinging is less physics-based and more, I don't know how to really describe it besides cartoonish. It doesn't take any skill and you can go super fast right away. In the last game, gaining speed meant jumping at the top of your web and using your momentum to carry you into your next swing. This game is just an overdrive. Sometimes it's to the point where I can't even control where I'm going because I'm going so fast. Now you might be thinking I don't like the web swinging, and that's far from the truth. It's just different. I still think Spider-Man 2's is superior, but I really enjoy this game's take on it. I don't know, something about just taking off and zipping through the city just sits well with me. It's like watching a clickbait video. Sure, it doesn't have any real substance, but sometimes I just want to turn off my brain and swing around the city without thinking about it. They also added a new mechanic when you're on your web. You can climb it. They added this because unless you're double jumping at the tip of your swing, you don't get very much altitude, so instead you can climb up the web and use that to get higher. They kept web zipping from the last game as a way to get around faster when the buildings are too low to swing off of, and I really like that. And if you double jump when you web zip, you go super far, so it's really the best way to get around sometimes. Speaking of double jumping, when you're in the air, Spider-Man automatically does a bunch of really cool animations that make him look super acrobatic. I really like this inclusion because in the comics he's always doing flips and other acrobatics in the air, and it really translated well to the game. When you're not swinging around, you're going to be beating up some bad guys. So, how's the combat? Well, it's dumbed down about the same amount as the swinging. Instead of button combos, you now just have a punch and kick. They can be combined with things around you like cars and light posts if you aim the stick in the direction of the object. It's the same thing as web swinging. Does it have a lot of substance? No, but it is fun to just jump around the screen and beat up people as Spider-Man. They also made it so when you knock someone out, you have to web them to the ground so they don't get back up. That's definitely one of the better additions. I will say though, my biggest complaint is that there's no dodge button anymore. In Spider-Man 2, there was a dodge button whenever your Spidey sense went off, and it let you automatically dodge and counter attacks, similar to the Batman Arkham games. Now you're just supposed to jump out of the way and try not to get hit when you can. Jumping isn't always the most reliable though, so it's hard to wonder why they excluded this from the game. Let's talk about the game itself. It starts off with Peter fighting Venom in the school football field. You have him follow you away from the school and then fight in the streets. Then the cops show up, you run away, and Venom gets electrocuted from a phone line. Fast forward 3 months later and Peter's hanging out with MJ, who knows he's Spider-Man. You do basic Spidey things and then you meet up with Johnny Storm and have a race. That's what I love about this game. Marvel has created this huge universe with such interesting characters, and this game actually takes advantage of it. Unlike the last game, Spider-Man 2, which can only use the film right characters. In this game we get references of Iron Man, mutants, the Fantastic Four. They can talk about anyone because it's the comic universe, not the film verse. Oh man, I didn't know Spider-Man worked at Bungie. You beat Johnny in a race, and then you have to go around the city helping citizens. Hey, wait a minute. Don't worry, this might sound familiar, but they really did improve on helping the citizens. In the last game, you would have to go to the citizen with the green thing over their head, watch a cutscene, help the person, watch another cutscene, and then you would get some superhero points and have to do a ton more. Now it's just a little blip on your radar and you can jump right into the action. The missions are about the same: beat up some guys, stop a carjacking, help someone from falling, bring someone to the hospital. I wonder why I'm even bringing someone to the hospital. Like, the paramedics are already there. Imagine if you were this woman and you had a neck injury. You're about to get in the paramedics when suddenly teenage Spider-Man swoops down and kidnaps you and starts swinging your ass to the hospital. I mean, look how he's jumping around. Also, I'm sure you're sad to hear, but saving that kid's balloon is not in this game. You still have to save people in order to progress in the story, but this time they stack. So if you want to just spend a few hours grinding out saving the citizens or doing races, you won't have to anymore for the rest of the game. The other two things you have to do is find hidden tokens, and I say hidden very lightly, and do combat tours. Combat tours? These are little combat challenges that make you fight a specific gang. I really like the idea, but it can be so easy it gets boring. In fact, the entire game is pretty easy, with the exception of the bosses, but I'll get to that later. Moving on, the really cool part of this game is that you get to play as Venom, and holy hell is he overpowered. He's built like a tank, has a claw attack, and a long range attack, and it's badass. The only downside is that you constantly lose health over time. In order to stop that, you have to feed on people. Oh, I guess this kid is in the game. Let's go see how Venom handles the situation. Whatever score I gave for the last game, double it for this one. Well, whoever thought of putting that in the game deserves a raise. Anyways, you play as Venom and you start to destroy the city. Most of the Venom parts are the same. Just fight a bunch of SHIELD agents and then fight a boss battle. You end up fighting Wolverine, Electro, Beetle, and a few others. And they are pretty difficult. I really wish the entire game was as much of a challenge as these were. Don't get too used to them though, because the ratio is about 3 Spider-Man missions to every 1 Venom mission. But I will say it does make the Venom missions feel more special. Speaking of missions, there is really not a lot of them. This is a very short game, but like I said in my last review, I don't mind if it's short if I'm having fun the entire time. So, was I having fun the entire time? I'm gonna have to say yes. I really like this game and I enjoyed it the entire time I played. It's a fun game with a really good story, and it was even written by the same guy who wrote the comic series, Brian Michael Bendis, my personal favorite comic book writer. Later, this game even got adapted into the actual comic, and that's just one of the other really cool things about it. Overall, it has so much charm, it's hard not just to smile while playing it. The combat's really simple, the web swinging isn't as advanced as the last game, and the smaller world are pretty big drawbacks. But overall, I would play this game again and again. I'm gonna have to give it 9 Venoms out of 10. Well, that was a fantastic game. I'm honestly really impressed. We still have time for one more though, so let's check out Spider-Man: Battle for New York on the Nintendo DS. This might seem like a downgrade going back to back from Spider-Man Ultimate, but maybe it won't be that bad.
Mary Jane, she's in A-Wing this morning.
Ah! Okay. So where to start? Well, this is Spider-Man: Battle for New York, that's for sure. The game starts off with you playing as the Green Goblin in the Ultimate Universe, and just as a biased side note, I hate the Green Goblin in the Ultimate Universe. But this? Oh boy! First off, why is he wearing purple shorts? In the comic, he doesn't usually wear anything, or sometimes if he does, it's brown shorts. Now this might sound nitpicky, but can you think of another green Marvel superhero who is big and wears purple shorts? Maybe they could have picked any other color besides purple. Anyways, this is a really average beat 'em up game. You play as the Green Goblin and tear up the city, and then you play as Spider-Man and help the people Green Goblin put in danger. I don't really have much to say about this one that I haven't said about the other 10,000 Spider-Man side-scrolling beat 'em up games. It's okay. There are definitely better Spider-Man games than this to play, even on the go. So I wouldn't really recommend this, but I wouldn't really say that it's awful. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, of course, good games have value. Of course they do. And bad games have value too, though. But this game is just so plain and boring. I mean, like the worst, absolute worst video games of all time. They have value. They give you something to talk about, and they can be so bad that they're good. But this is just more than mediocre.
I mean, what do I do with a game like this? What do I even say about a game like this? There's nothing to even talk about. You want the rating? It's going to be 1 existential crisis. That's it. This is the equivalent of someone handing you a piece of white bread and saying, well, what do you think? I don't know. It's fine, I guess. Yeah, it's bread. Well, that's this. That's the review. 1 existential crisis. This game is bread.
And there you have it. Just like my first marriage, it started off great and ended in despair, and me asking myself not only who am I, but what does this all mean? Well, anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you want to see more, subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell to be notified every time I upload. Thank you again so much for watching, and have a great day. If you've been keeping up with the show, you might be wondering how I play all these old and retro games.
With an emulator, of course. But believe it or not, a keyboard isn't the best way to play all these old games. That's why I bought the Vilrose 5 USB controller pack. I got this around the start of the show so I could give all the games a fair chance, and it really is amazing. It comes with an NES, SNES, Sega Genesis, N64, and a PlayStation 2 controller.
After watching this episode, you really should go back and play those games. Well, maybe not Spider-Man Battle for New York, but Ultimate Spider-Man really does hold up. Seriously, go play it. And the best way to play it is with the Vilrose 5 USB controller pack. Thank you so much, Vilrose, for the sponsorship, and have a great day.